Hello everyone, and welcome to part 1 of my 3-part series, Navels of the Earth. Easter Island, Cusco, Peru, Delphi, Greece. These places all bear the same ancient name, the navel of the world. But are they connected? And if so, how? To answer this question, I decided to travel to all 3 places to see what I could learn, to see what, if anything, could be pieced together. By the end of my series, I hope to prove, to any reasonable person, that many of the same ideas and skills were at work in all 3 places, strongly suggesting cultural exchange at a very early date and certainly much earlier than is accepted. Before we begin, let me just say that you really need to watch all 3 parts of this series, because as you start to see the patterns repeat in each location, that's when the aha moment will really happen. But let's jump into part 1, and just trust me, everything is going to be building to something. Okay, so here we are on Easter Island, a tiny speck of an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, measuring just 14 miles by 6 miles. And it is on this island that ancient people embarked upon some of the most iconic stonework of the ancient world. They erected nearly 1,000 moai. The heaviest moai ever erected stands here on this platform at Ahu, Tongariki, and it weighs 86 tons, and it's 9 meters or 30 feet tall. That's roughly the size of a 3-story building. Standing next to this one, I just about go up to its chin. These are stone giants. One extremely important thing to note about the moai is that pretty much at least every last one of them has their hands meeting around their navel. As you know, if you're familiar with my work and my book, this symbolism repeats throughout a crazy amount of the ancient world. So, we know the true original name of Easter Island was the navel of the earth. And we know all the moai have their hands pointed around their navel. But there's also a navel stone. You're looking at it now. This stone is remembered in oral traditions to have been brought by Hotu Motua, Easter Island's legendary founding king. Perhaps we can interpret all this as some sort of grand design of Easter Island, where separate parts were meant to work as a system to invoke the idea of the navel, to invoke naval imagery, to almost force one to contemplate the navel. The name of the island, the navel of the earth, all the moai pointing to their navel, the navel stone. You see, it all kind of works together as a device. Okay, so just tuck that away for a moment, and let's look at other cool stuff that will be important later. This is Ahu Vinipu, where we find some of the finest polygonal masonry on Easter Island. Most of the ahu that the moai are standing on are constructed with rougher stones, but at Ahu Vinipu, it looks like something straight out of Cusco, straight from Sacsayhuaman or the Coricancha. To me, this strongly suggests a cultural exchange took place, and at some point, someone with a distinctively Cusco skill set built this ahu on Easter Island. And by the way, I don't think this has ever been disclosed publicly anywhere, but there is a magnetic anomaly at Ahu Vinipu. If you hold your compass up to this hole, the needle will spin. This has only been discovered relatively recently, so not many people know about this yet. The really odd thing about this hole in Ahu Vinipu with the magnetic anomaly is that if you stand next to it, the hole is roughly at your navel if you're a roughly average size human, and there's a person in the side of this frame, and you can see the hole pretty much just matches her navel, even though the perspective is a little skewed. So that's interesting. Make of that what you will. I'm not saying it's intentional, but I just find it interesting that at Ahu Vinipu there is a hole that aligns with your navel if you stand next to it, and then it makes a compass spin. Like, what is going on here? Okay, so as we move forward, let's note the ancient name for Easter Island and the ancient name for Cusco were in fact the same, the navel of the earth. And on Easter Island you find masonry with a distinctively Cusco style, like we find at the Coricancha. And then you have the Birdman. On Easter Island, the Birdman was the king for the year. Each year a new king was determined in an epic contest. Men would scale down the cliffs at Orongo, cross the shark-infested waters to Moto Nui, obtain the egg of a sooty tern, and swim back, scale up the cliff, and be the first to return to Orongo with the unbroken egg. No one really knows the origins of this tradition or why they did this, but one thing we do know is that the Birdman was also a symbol that they etched into stone in the form of petroglyphs in various spots around the island and even on the backs of some moai. Tongata Manu is the word for Birdman in the Rapa Nui language. Symbolically, it's often depicted as a creature with the hands and feet of a man and the face of a bird and a sort of amorphous body. So the concept of the Birdman was very, very important, sacred even, to the people of Rapa Nui. And here's where it gets interesting, because Cusco is not originally a Quechua word, even though it means navel or navel of the earth in Quechua. But the word is originally derived from an Aymara term, Cuscuwanca, which translates to rock of the owl. And the reason Cusco was known to the Aymara as the rock of the owl is because its founding tradition. The founding tradition of Cusco is that a man named Ayar Auca transformed into a bird and flew to the spot where Cusco would be founded. Now let's stop and think about this, because this is all really profound. The founding story of Cusco is that a birdman named Ayar Auca flew to the spot where the future city would be founded. Here's a statue of Ayar Auca near the base of Machu Picchu. They still honor this person, this being from their founding cosmology, from their founding mythos. And I have to wonder, where else did Ayar Auca fly to? Did he fly to Easter Island? And I don't mean this literally, but his order, his cult, his posse, his people. And before we totally move on from the Easter Island Birdman phenomenon, I want to show you this cave. This is called the Cave of the White Virgin, because a woman would be kept in here for anywhere from 6 months to a year to lighten her skin. And when a new Birdman was crowned on Easter Island, he would be brought the White Virgin from the cave. You can see the cave feels like a jail cell, almost right on the edge of this extremely sheer cliff. And inside we find carvings, which are believed to have been made by the women who lived here in solitude for months while they awaited the new king. So most people have seen the main sites of Easter Island, the quarry volcano Rana Raraku, where the moai heads are just sticking out of the ground. Most people have also seen Tongariki, where the moai with their backs towards the ocean are standing in a platform where there's 15 moai. And a lot of people have seen Ahu Tahai. It's a beautiful place to watch the sunset, but far fewer people have seen the north coast of Easter Island. The north coast is a desolate, uninhabited stretch of land. There's no roads that go through it. There's no houses on it. It's uninhabited and it's remote, and the only way to access it is to hike for hours across it. And I'm gonna bring you with me today as we hike across the north coast of Easter Island. Prepare to see Easter Island like you've never seen it before. Here's a moai lying face down on the ground that never made it to its ahu, and my guide believes that this moai might represent the exact moment that a slave class that was serving the rulers revolted and quit their jobs. And this ahu, you can see there's a smaller moai built into the base of the structure, indicating various phases of development on Easter Island. An earlier phase where this moai was constructed, and then a later phase where this moai was incorporated into this ahu. Now check out this ahu. This ahu almost has a similar feel to it as the ahu Vinapu. Much more precise, larger stones. I wonder if the same artisans that worked on Vinapoo also worked on this ahu, which, tell me if you've ever even seen this before. I don't think most people have even seen this ahu. Here we see two moai lying face down, and one of them is becoming incorporated into the ground. You can see its red top knot and then the body of the moai. This is a strange, unexplained feature on the landscape. And here we have a very fascinating subterranean chamber. Yes, the ancestral Easter Islanders did build subterranean chambers like you'd see in Egypt or in Mesoamerica. And now we're starting to see things that look a bit more like something you'd find in Malta or Egypt. Look at this tiny square passageway like you'd see in the Great Pyramid. I mean, this is a really fascinating subterranean chamber here on Easter Island. Look at this roofing lintel. Doesn't this kind of feel like Egypt or Malta? And this is the Maki Maki cave. This is a little known cave. Most people have not seen this cave, and inside this cave are the faces of the creator deity of the Rapa Nui, Maki Maki. And the cult of Maki Maki, the worship of Maki Maki, was active on Easter Island pretty much right from the beginning all the way through the end of the ancestral period. And here we are at Punapau. This is the top knot quarry where the indigenous Rapa Nui would cut and carve and extract these massive boulders weighing many tons from inside of a ditch. And they would just pop them right out from the ditch and put them right on the heads of the moai. This is the only figure I've found anywhere in the world with two sets of hands around its navel, and it's oriented towards the winter solstice. I'm at Ahu Akivi, and Ahu Akivi is an ahu. The ahu refers to the platform that the moai are standing on, and these moai specifically are known as the seven navigators. But I think that there might be a connection between these moai, the people they represent, and the seven sages of Mesopotamia, in India known as the Saptarishi or the Seven Sages. This is a cult or group or order of civilizers who restart civilization after the flood, and that's how they're described in Mesopotamian mythology and in Indian mythology, and it's possible that same group or cult or order could have been active here on Easter Island. Because if you'll remember, or perhaps you didn't know this, but the 7 sages of Mesopotamia, often referred to as the Apkallu, were often depicted as birdmen. Sometimes they have the head of a human, sometimes they have the head of a bird, but they always have wings, so it's 2 different variations on the Birdman, and yes, the Apkallu are frequently depicted with handbags. Now, on a church in Hengaroa on Easter Island, we find a very interesting depiction of the Birdman, or Tangata Manu, and this is it here right now. We're looking at it, and I just can't help but to see the resemblance between the Apkallu of Mesopotamia, the Birdman Ayar Auca of Cusco, and the Birdman here. And look, this Birdman is even wearing a V-neck, which we'll see repeated also throughout the ancient world, and most notably in Gobekli Tepe, which is just fascinating. Okay, so here we have a moai from Easter Island on the left and Pillar 43 of Gobekli Tepe on the right. And I just want to point out some similarities. I mean, we've been looking at a lot of similarities between Easter Island and Gobekli Tepe, but look at these 2 works of art. And okay, this squiggle under the belt of the moai is kind of like the squiggle pattern of the scorpion under the separation of the top and bottom part of the pillar on Gobekli Tepe. So you've got the little squiggle, you've got the scorpion, you've got the belt, you've got this line of separation, and then you have 2 birds with this solar disk in the middle, or what is assumed could be a solar disk. Could be an egg, could be a navel stone, who knows. But again, you have a bird here, and then this circular object in the middle. One difference, these 2 birds are facing each other. These 2 birds are facing... they're both facing to the right. And then you have this kind of like M symbol up here between the birds, right? And this bird has kind of been transformed into a sort of M symbol. And also note there's another bird over here. So the M symbol plus the bird has been combined into an M symbol that is a bird. And then you have these 3 bags at the top. People debate, okay, maybe they're waves or water or constellations, who knows what, but they still do kind of look like handbags. And we actually saw a handbag symbol combined with a birdman in Mesopotamia with the Apkallu. And then there's these 3 objects or shapes at the top of the head of the moai, flanked by 2 faces with a paddle in their mouth. So it's interesting, especially given all the other commonalities we find between Easter Island and Gobekli Tepe. So taking it a step deeper, we also have birdmen on both of these pillars. Not just birds, birdmen. We've been over the ones from Easter Island. You can see they have 5 fingers. But the figure on the right, the so-called vulture from Pillar 43 of Gobekli Tepe, I am on the record arguing that this is a birdman we are looking at. The earliest depiction, or one of the earliest depictions of a birdman anywhere in the world, and I think it's a birdman because if you look, it has this distinctive V-neck garment, but it also has bent knees like a human. So this has distinctively human characteristics. It looks like a human torso wearing a robe, and then distinctively bird characteristics, the face, the wings, the feet. But I'm arguing this is a birdman, and we know that the image on the left from Easter Island also represents birdmen. So that just adds another layer to the coincidence of the connection between Easter Island and Gobekli Tepe. But we've been talking a lot about Easter Island and we've been talking a lot about Cusco, but we haven't talked much about Delphi in a while. And we're going to get into all that, especially in part 2 and 3, but just for right now, I want to mention that we also do find bird people all over the archaeological record of Delphi. And we also find polygonal masonry in Delphi. So that's it for part 1. Clearly, I believe there was a cult or order of Birdmen. They were active in Mesopotamia. They were very likely active in Easter Island. They were active in Cusco, and really throughout the world in many places. That's my theory. That's my guess. They were spreading a package of culture and information. The navel symbolism was very important to them. The polygonal masonry was a strong skill set of theirs. And the Birdman was their cult or order or group of people that, as far as I can tell, were quote-unquote flying around the world, sharing skills, knowledge, information, symbols, myths, astronomical knowledge, things like that. So that's it for part 1. If you liked this video, if you found it interesting, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel, it really helps. Part 2, we're going to be going to Cusco and diving deep into Cusco. In part 3, we're going to be diving deep into Delphi. And finally, if you haven't read my book yet or gotten a copy of it, please consider getting a copy on Amazon. The link's below. I spent over 3 years tracking down every naval idol I could find everywhere on Earth, photographing them all, documenting them all, putting all those photographs together in a book, along with all of my original research. So if that interests you, consider getting a copy of my book, and we'll see you soon for part 2.